Hi, I'm Dale and I'm the co-host of Her Power podcast. I'm a mum of a 3-year-old boy and I've been running my own business for around 3 years now, and that company specializes in professional cleaning services. It would be amazing if you could like, comment and subscribe.
Hey ladies, I am your one of the co-hosts, Aston Minto, for the podcast Her Power. I am a mama to a 3-year-old who is super cheeky, and I'm also a business owner. I coach and mentor female business owners to grow and scale their business so that they can live the lifestyle of their dreams.
Hi, ladies, and welcome to today's podcast episode. We're going to be talking about our journey into business and what hurdles we faced whilst building our companies, and also just how that related to our experience as mothers. Touching on our experience and journey into motherhood, I know that we were both, our children are both lockdown babies, so that obviously has a big part to play in my journey. I was unfortunate to be one of the people in lockdown that my finances were my finances were greatly impacted by lockdown as I was finishing my degree at the time. I was planning to go full time and, I had a lot of plans I was building. I was actually completing my degree at the time. So I had plans to move full time and actually start going back into my career after my degree. However, life had new plans for me. So being on lockdown and being stuck, essentially trapped in a part-time contract, I had to get really creative of how to make extra income because I think my salary was something around time. And it was just really difficult because I didn't really plan having such a limited capacity on my income, but of course no one can really foresee a global pandemic. So that really put me into a way, or I guess it started It started the trajectory of me to be able to think dynamically and creatively of how to how to generate income. So initially, I started evaluating what skills I had and what I could actually monetize. And I come to the conclusion that I was a really good baker, and that was the most cost-effective, low capital type of startup, and that was my first business hustle. I was doing like professional baking on the side whilst Elijah was 3 months old, and I still was recovering from a C-section. So during those times, I remember I had to literally have like regular breaks because if you've had a C-section, you'll know how uncomfortable it is, and especially the later stages of the recovery in terms of like standing for long periods. So that's essentially what I started. So how about you? What did you? What was like your first dipping your toe in the water?
I would say I've always been quite career driven, motivated, and I think in 2016, that is when I was really captivated by the digital evolution, really. The prospects that are available to you, online money, Wi-Fi money, on-demand money, all of that type of stuff.
I agree.
This is it. So, I kind of tapped in and I was locked in for at least a good 3 years. So, I mean, I was traveling. I was doing a lot of traveling. I think by 2019, I'd already booked a holiday for every month in 2020. But we all know what happened in 2020. The whole world got locked down. So no more travel. That business idea was just at the time was like, it didn't seem feasible. So like what happened with a lot of people during lockdown, I kind of just put my feet up a bit. But also I fell pregnant, and it gave me the opportunity to kind of think about, well, what was I looking to do in my future? Like I'd learned a lot from the online world and the online space. I learned that you could make money whilst on the move, and you can design a life that works not just around you, but around your responsibilities, your commitments. And it just made perfect sense linking it in with motherhood. So I would say literally I enjoyed my pregnancy. I can't lie. I didn't even focus on business, but the clogs were moving in my brain.
Yeah.
I can just at least say that. But it was when I had to come back to work and the maternity leave was ending, and I'm like, what am I going to do?
Good old maternity leave.
This is it. I've got this beautiful baby and I don't really want to leave her anywhere. I don't want to be working full time, but I've got to work out how I can make this balance. And I just remember having like flip chart paper all over my living room floor of like post-it notes. And I'm just like mapping out the structure of my business, and how not only was I going to serve other women that were experiencing the same thing as me, but also set up for myself. So I literally was trying to create a model that would work around Lene and our future and what I wanted our future to be,
I
and incorporate
agree.
lifestyle into it.
Isn't it crazy how, like, before you have a child, you can be like the most career driven person, like
Yeah.
ambitious, 200%. All you can think about is upskilling and leveling up. And as soon as you have a baby, it's like your whole entire priority shift. I know people say that, but experiencing it is completely different, because I feel like work just doesn't interest you anymore. It's like it just becomes really irrelevant to your life. Well, in my personal experience, did you feel like that was the same for you?
I would say it definitely was. And I think what you always hear in like the career world, or even like the corporate world, or whatever it may be, transferable skills. You have transferable skills. You can do this, you can do that. Well, why can't you do it for yourself?
Yeah.
Why can't what you do in your career, in your business, why don't you set that up for yourself as a business, so you can kind of elevate yourself? So what I kind of found was, when it came to like my maternity leave ending, I'm returning back to work and I'm having conversations with my manager. And I'm thinking, but you're not considering my child as much as I do. So my whole point of starting a business was that I wanted to create something that had a safe space for me and my child.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to fit within constraints of others, because I make my own parameters, which is why, obviously, when we were talking about let's do a podcast, it was like we're discussing childcare.
Yeah.
Why don't we just bring the kids? Because we're creating something.
Yeah.
And the kids aren't going to go anywhere. So
no, I you know what,
them.
following on from that, like with my professional cleaning business, the majority of our work is in end of tenancies. So I would bring Elijah onto to the office runs, the property inspections. When I was building my Airbnb rent to rent business, we won't talk about that. That's a different episode for a different day. But when I was building it, I was taking Elijah to all the viewings, and I was giving him criteria of how to kind of assess the quality of the property. I was giving him the tools of how to introduce himself to people correctly. And I know I mentioned to you recently that whenever I take him into the office, he is the manager, because I made it as well as me. Because I think one of the joys about doing business as a mother is the ability to be able to bring your child with you, because there's so much stigma around, almost like being a mother equals unprofessionalism. I don't know if you get that, but
100%.
I just got in trouble at work recently for the amount of times that I've taken off for Elijah being sick. And I remember during the meeting, I had said to my manager, I'm sorry, but this isn't going to change, and we're entering into winter, so it's likely to get worse. I can't stop the fact of how many illnesses my child has, and unfortunately I'm the only parent that he has to rely on for that. And luckily I have a manager who is very, very understanding, but I know with a lot of my mummy friends it's not the case. And some people just get ostracized. There's been times when I've gone to quote a job and I'll bring Elijah with me and my client's fine with it. I think it's sometimes more of like an internal kind of battle that you have inside your own head, and the pressure that you put on yourself, thinking, am I being seen as unprofessional? Is this going to be okay? But when you do your own business, it's like you can create the culture of your own company to be one that if you see me, then you're going to see my child as well, and they're learning how to be professional. So I think when you do business, it gives you a bit more flexibility just to do that. That's what I found.
It definitely does give you more flexibility. It gives you opportunity as well to create something that that's for you. You don't have to feel uncomfortable, because even down to the fact that you have to have a return to work conversation, and in that return to work conversation, this is why I was like, coming back to work after post maternity leave, I was like, I need to create something that works around me and Lene. It has to.
It's hard. I remember literally crying my eyes out one day going back to work. Elijah, I can't remember what illness he had. I think he had bronchiolitis or something along those lines. And I remember just being back in work, and I was talking to my colleagues about how I felt with how I felt in leaving him because he was so sick, and I just burst into tears, and I was just like, I shouldn't be here, like I should be at home with my child.
Stuff going on like at the same time. Like I'm not just a business owner. I don't just have a full-time job, part-time nursery. I'm also a school governor for three schools.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to do like a degree at the same time. And I think this also kind of in links in with the whole point of her power, and it is literally just coming into yourself and being like, you know what, I am a motivated person. I am ambitious and I want more for myself. And I think a lot of the time what a lot of women come up against throughout motherhood and even just coming into their power and ambition is, how am I going to fit everything in? How is this schedule going to work? So how has it worked for you, Dale? Because
People always ask me that, like, how do you find time for things? And I'm like, I don't. Have you seen the bags around my eyes? Look at me. I'm literally a zombie. No, but all jokes aside, that first year of Elijah's life, the sleep deprivation was insane. Like, that's, again, a different story for a different day. But there was a few key things that I'd done when I was first, like I would say the first initial weeks of me setting up my business. One of those was to cut out TV. It's something I still do today. And I use TV as a reward system because I think you get used to a lifestyle where you just equate relaxation with TV time. And that's what a lot of people in our country tend to do for relaxation, which is not a problem if that's what floats your boat. However, it's not necessarily a productive use of your time. So cutting out TV, and then I set myself a rule where I would have to do an hour of work every single day. And I call it staircasing, and it's like, you can't build a house overnight, and even building a house requires you to literally form every block meticulously in position in a uniform way, and that is literally what it takes to build a business. You just have to be consistent and use the time that you have where you actually have the energy and the capacity to start attacking or chipping away at that block.
yeah.
Because if you have, let's say, if you do an hour a day, that's 365 hours in a year that you have committed to your job or your business or your passion, and it will change over time. It will grow. It's just maths. The maths is mathing.
The compound effect, effectively.
Yeah, literally.
No, 100%. I think
What about you?
for myself, the early stages. So if we go back to
It makes me shudder.
Leaving the hospital, I think everybody thought I was nuts. They were like, your baby's not even 2 weeks old and you're trying to have her on a sleep schedule. Yes, because I have things I need to do. I need to know when she's going to sleep. So I know when I can do things for myself. Like, I have big goals. I have a vision. It has to fit around her especially when you've got like a limited support network. You've got to find those windows of opportunity where you can kind of elevate yourself, get to the next level, and you've got a plan to get there, a meticulous plan.
Yeah.
Saying that. So sleep schedule. That was the first thing. Bearing in mind, we already know my child's sleep.
Now, different story.
Yeah, now she don't sleep as much as so. I'm glad that I used that time that I did initially, because it helped so much. As you said, like those little hours. Even when it was like returning back to work post-maternity leave, I had to condition myself that, you've got your 9 till 5 or whatever your schedule is. And then after your child goes to sleep, if it's your 6 till 9 or whatever, you have your time when you're working your business or whatever it is that you're passionate about, you're ambitious about. You have to block out that time and be dedicated not only to that, but yourself.
You do.
And I think one of the biggest things that I realized as well, having Lene, was that my love for her made me love myself.
That's so true. Like, I can really agree with that. My self-worth is on 10/10 now after having a child.
This is it, because I just feel like if I tolerate something, that means that she has to tolerate it.
I agree.
If she has to tolerate it, like, what's suffering? If I'm willing to suffer, like, what suffering is that going to put her through? So I literally have to take the things that I involve myself in, or the things that I allow to be in my space or in my energy. I have to take it seriously. So I only want positive things that are going to elevate not just me, but my child.
Do you know what as well? Yeah, like, this is something that I joke about, but I don't think it's necessarily like, I don't know if people understand, like, when you're a single mother, it's so isolating physically. Like I always compare it to being on like a prison tag. Because once my son goes to bed at 6, well now it's 7, but when he was a baby it was 6. Once 6 o'clock comes, you can't leave your house. And when you put that down into, like, I was even thinking about this in traffic the other day, just a bit like, wow. When you think about, okay, how old are they going to be when you can actually leave them at home by themselves for like an hour or so? This is a long stint. You're talking like a decade of you being at home. And for me personally, I was like, okay, so I can't, it's like so many things were limited or still are limited in my life. I was like, do you think I'm going to come out of this situation and not have leveled up? This time that I have at home needs to be the time that I invest into myself. Because it's like people, sometimes people go to prison and they come out with a degree and they come out being really physically fit. But for me, my baby prison, not saying that he's a prison because he's not, but like I can't go to the shop and just pop, some people are like, oh, why don't you go to the gym earlier? I mean, how? What, I'm supposed to leave my son while he's sleeping to go to the gym, and then it just don't work. You can't leave the house for a big portion of your day. So I just wanted to make sure that whilst I was at home, when I kind of re-emerged like a butterfly.
Yeah, from your cocoon.
Because, we know the hungry caterpillar off my heart.
Literally.
Then let's not start quoting it, because I know you're thinking about it.
I am.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was just using my time effectively. And it's like, when you cut out TV, it's amazing how much time you actually have. But now that Elijah's older, I do think that it is a struggle. As I was, we were speaking this week and I was just like, I am just exhausted. My son literally wakes up 6 a.m. every day and he is bouncing. I saw a meme on Instagram earlier and it was saying something like, when little kids just wake up, no stretch, no yawn, no nothing, they're just talking.
Yeah.
I have one of those children. So sometimes, I'm just trying to find a balance at the moment of like, how can you still hit the ground running and attack your goals with like intense ambition and drive, but also have time to unwind and find space for your self-care? Like, that's actually a really hard balance, because I don't think you can actually do it all, if I'm being honest.
No, I think it's really hard to do it all. And if you haven't got a support network, it's near enough, I'm not going to say it's impossible, because we still get things done.
You find ways.
You find ways, and it will be ways that, you might not have considered beforehand. And then you start considering them and it actually works out. For myself, it's been the support network's really limited, but we make it work.
Yeah.
It works out. And Lene doesn't notice any of the chaos that's going on in the background, trying to make all of the connections meet.
Yeah.
So it must be working. But I would say generally, if you've got a plan for anything that you want to achieve in life, whether it's your business, whether it's your health and wellness or whatever it is, if you've got a plan of how you want to execute it throughout motherhood, or even if maybe you're just lacking a bit of confidence or motivation, from when you've got a plan, not only can you believe in it, but others can believe in it.
That's true.
You're able to have conversations with people and they're going to be able to believe in it. So I'll give you an example. If somebody came to me with a business idea, yeah, I'll listen to you. I'll listen to exactly what you got to say, If you came to me with a business plan, now we're talking something serious.
Yeah.
Now
it shows a certain level of commitment, doesn't it?
This is it. You took the time out. And it makes me want to invest my time in you and help you get to where you need to be as well.
Yeah.
Which is why when I designed the structure of my business, and I was like, you know what? I need to help other women to grow and scale their businesses, especially the women that are as motivated, as passionate and ambitious as myself. All you need sometimes is just one supporter.
And do you know what as well? I think working with you has made me realise that sometimes it's important to understand what you're good at and what you're not good at, because you can't be good at everything. And this is why essentially I've come to the conclusion of like, I've just been in the process of closing down my cleaning business to start focusing on new businesses and starting new companies, because the cleaning business was really not actually playing to any of the strengths in my character. As a like neurodivergent person, you're just talking about the business plans and I was nodding. I was thinking, I have never even wrote a business plan for any of my businesses, which if you're listening to this, don't follow my process. I don't recommend my structure. It's not necessarily the best way. It's very chaotic, but it's what I've done to figure it out. Like, you know, and now I know with the cleaning business, it was very much like in my head, all of the side hustles that I was kind of doing and starting to get to the cleaning business, to me it was almost like business university. Like, this is something that's like low capital, it's low risk, so if I mess it up, no one's gonna like lose sleep over it. And trust me, there was a lot of mistakes that I've made, but now I feel like after doing that for like 2-3 years, now I'm at the level where we can sit down and I can actually take on board a lot of the skills that you have and think, okay, so that didn't work, but now you're in a bit, you have all of this experience and all of these skills, so let's execute it in a different way.
Yeah.
Because I actually, and this is the thing now I think about, I'm like, you actually crazy to even do this. But with my cleaning business, I never would write notes. Everything on my cleaning business, I run from my mind, which is understandable why I have so many grey hairs now. Because
is that crazy.
But again, sometimes you have to do things wrong to know how to do it the best way.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, like, what I find anyway, I think sometimes you can have like toxic positivity where people like, but you must do this and you must follow a linear approach. And when you have a child and life and all the things that life throws at you when you are a mother, it's not always going to be, I sit down, I had an idea, I made a business plan and that happened. Sometimes you may lose all your money and have to start again. Or you may be very disorganized like me and not have a business plan. But again, we're not going to recommend that.
You know, even touching on that. So obviously, Dara, you're neurodiverse, undiagnosed. I got my diagnosis really late. So I got diagnosed with autism. So I'm on the spectrum in itself. But I do also think that I may have some tendencies of ADHD as well. But the fact is that
mixing pot of neurospicy.
This is it, neurospicy over here. But I would say for my whole life, I kind of knew that I was there's something a bit different about me. But I feel like when you have a structure and you know what you're working towards, whether it's organised chaos, because sometimes I work in organised chaos as well. Anybody at work that's watching this, obviously you know about my million tabs that I have open.
Yeah, when we had a video call the other day, I was literally like, I didn't even know a computer could hold that capacity of tabs.
It works, okay?
So if it works for you, different strokes, different folks.
This is it. But as I was saying, like having a plan, having a schedule, knowing what you're at least working towards. Initially, if you've got that initially, so if you're watching this podcast right now and you've got a business idea, the best thing that I can advise you to do is get your business plan. Just get your business plan ready.
Just write it.
Just write it. Just write whatever you think needs to be.
Follow me. Just write it.
But there's a reason why I say that, because you mentioned something, Del, and it's important because you said, what happens if you lose your capital? What happens if the money that you had is no longer there? I made sure I had, even like launching this business, I made sure I had my business plan ready before I'd even launched. So because I had it ready before I even launched, I was able to submit for grant funding prior to me actually like getting the clogs moving. So I was able to line up the opportunity for having cash injections coming into my business before I'd even made a sale.
See, this is why I admire you, because I feel like there's so many things where I'm like, why did I not think about that? And I think that you're quite creative in ways that I'm definitely not, which is not, it's not a negative thing. It's just, it just reminds me of how important it is to network and how important it is to kind of feed off of other people's energy. And I think this kind of links of why we've created the brand Her Power, because I found that we're all in the same boat. Everyone's struggling to pay these nursery fees. Everybody is trying to find their way of like, okay, I'm a mum now and I'm a head of a department. I don't know how that's going to balance with, you know, we all need passive income as mothers. It just suits our lifestyle. And I personally really thrive off of having conversations like this where, you know, there's been so many things that you've brought to my attention where I had no recollection no point of reference to even know that was a thing in terms of accessing funding and accessing support, especially for the neurodivergent diagnosis, which we can acknowledge I still haven't done yet because of the neurodivergence.
So basically what you're saying
it's a
is
vicious circle.
on the way
ADHD
home.
Because now I'm like, I completed the form? No, it's open on a tab. It's on a tab on my laptop, which will get there. But you know, it is a bit challenging. And when I first started my business, I feel like my company went from like zero, like the idea, to kind of a lot of pressure quite quick. I would say in a space of like a month or two.
Yeah.
I had secured a commercial contract, which was like 7 days a week contract, couple of cleans in a day. So technically it could have been multiple staff.
Yeah.
When I tell you that contract was the bane of my life, it literally brought me so much stress. And then the second contract that I got was managing a portfolio of around 25 properties that was based in Dartford. So not necessarily on my doorstep. So we would have to commute into Dartford. But it was a portfolio between HMOs, Airbnbs, and just normal rent properties. And that again was 7 day a week contract. And I just remember that summer of my life, I cried so much. Like, I have never worked so physically hard before in my life. And to go to bed knowing that you're going to wake up in the night because your child's teething and they might have a sickness bug, and then you're exhausted anyway, and then you have to get up the next day and go and do it again. Like, there were so many moments where I was like, I just don't know how I'm even functioning or surviving this. But I guess when it's your own business, it's your child. Like, they just give you the strength to just continue pushing on, because sometimes I do think, like, I genuinely feel like God blessed me with my child to, you know, support my journey and to grow into being the woman that I was destined to be. If that sounds super cheesy, but I do believe that. Because I don't know if I would have had this approach before I had children. I feel like having Elijah has made me be relentless with my ambition and very creative of how to, you know, get to my goals. Thank you for watching the first episode of Her Power podcast. And I can tell you we have loads more juicy episodes to come. And we're going to be diving into a lot of the topics that we've spoken about, but just in a lot more detail. And essentially providing you with the support for you to start your own empowerment journey.
Ladies, what we've all been asking for is a village, is a community. And with Her Power podcast, we are trying to create this for you within a digital space, not just providing a safe space to talk about the things that, you know, we kind of just cry into our pillow about, but also an opportunity for you to kind of learn, elevate, and hit that next level.
Hit the like button and make sure you subscribe to our podcast.
See you next time.